I created an entire feature-length film, and then I deleted it. Here's why. So, I had never considered making a feature length for, at least when I had started creating films, when I transitioned from stand-up comedy to acting, and I started even creating a few different short films here and there. I never considered, at least on my own, making a feature length for two different reasons. One, I just felt like there was nothing that I could offer, especially when I'm competing against some of the biggest films in Hollywood. I never wanted that compliment, oh, that's really good for an independent film. Like, I just never felt like it made sense for me to do something like that. Like, what was the point? Number two, I just felt like even if I did have, let's say, the ability to make a really good film, I didn't have the equipment. So for those two reasons, I never really considered, at least on my own, making a feature length. I had tried collabing with people in the past. That didn't really work out. So I just had sort of pushed off that idea for a very long time. Now, it wasn't until, for two reasons, that I ended up deciding I was going to make a feature length film. One, I ended up coming across this channel, and I'll put it down below here because I can't remember it right now. And it was this independent filmmaker's channel, and he had this movie that I came across that really fascinated me, and it sort of elicited a particular feeling that I have been chasing for a while. Probably the movie that I can mostly and inadequately compare it to is, if you've ever seen David Lynch's The Straight film, it's almost like an ASMR film. It's such a relaxing experience, and I say this with the utmost respect. It's a film that you can fall asleep to. It's just such a peaceful, relaxing film. And when I came across this channel and I started watching the film, it elicited a pretty similar feeling. And I thought to myself, well, if this guy's doing it at such a small budget, and he can create this particular feeling and elicit such a strong feeling that I had sort of been chasing and trying to find in different films, then probably I can create a really small budget film that can also do the same for somebody else. And so that sort of gave me the confidence to be able to go, okay, I want to create something because perhaps that could do that for somebody else. Two, I ended up buying a podcast mic at the time, and I felt like, well, okay, if I was going to do an independent film, I really needed good audio. And once I ended up buying that, then okay, I felt confident to start creating a feature-length film. So now that I had the equipment and the confidence, it was up to me to decide how I was going to do this. Now, I had tried working with people in the past. At the time, now I'm a lot more confident. I'm able to work with people, but at the time, I'm still trying to figure out what I was good at and all that stuff. And so I decided that I had to create a feature film. If I had to create a feature film, it was going to be entirely on my own. I didn't want a crew sort of weighing me down. I wanted to do things my way. I didn't want to compromise. So I decided if I was going to create a feature film, it had to be mostly at least. It was mostly me filming and doing everything. But if I was going to do that, obviously, it's a great feat. And I had to make sure that it was feasible. So I had to make sure to come up with an idea that not only was sort of geared towards being able to really just be able to film by myself, but also make it really interesting. And so I ended up coming up with this idea called Sleep. It was about this man who is sleep deprived, and over a week's time he can't sleep. He starts to hallucinate, and he starts to see things, and he has to sort of grapple with some of the inner emotions that he's sort of going through. And so I thought this would be a really interesting idea because I could be really creative, but at the same time, the entire film could take place in one small apartment. My brother Sean at the time, who was living in New York, he had an apartment and he would go to work, and so that'd be perfect for me to be able to film in his apartment. So now that I had the location and the idea, it took me about a month to put together sort of this loose script. When I had written in the past feature-length scripts and short films, I always like to sort of, make sure it's tight. But this time around, if I was going to make a film, I wanted to sort of make it loose so that it would be practical for me to shoot. Instead of having to, write the script for a very long time, I just wanted to get into it. So after a month's time, now that I had the script, now that I had the place, and I had the crew, which was just me and the small budget, it was time for me to film. Now, before that, I wanted to make sure that this looked as cinematic as possible. I was shooting with a Canon M50, which is not even shooting in 4K. I mean, this is a GH5 Lumix, so this is definitely an upgrade from what I was using. But because I was using like a podcast mic and like a Blue Yeti podcast mic, and I was shooting with a Canon M50, I was incredibly limited with what I could do, but I wanted to try to make it look as cinematic as possible. So I ended up going online and doing some research, specifically lighting. And I ended up just doing some very basic research on how to light a scene. And I cannot tell you, if anything, that's probably the one thing that I really took out of this experience, which is just how to light a scene. I mean, it's interesting when you look at films because, at least for me, I always assume that the way a feature length, the way that a movie looks cinematic, is just based on the camera. And there's some truth to that. I mean, a better camera is going to make the film look better, but a large part of that is just the way that you light a scene. And to me, just learning that and being able to light the scene ended up making the film look a lot more cinematic. So to me, that was definitely something maybe I wouldn't have learned if I hadn't put myself in that experience. So I was happy with that. But now that I had the research done and I had everything set up, it was time for me to film. I had this idea that it would take about a month to be able to film this entire movie, but after a week worth of filming, I realized this was going to take a lot longer. And ended up taking about 3 months to film this entire thing. And throughout this experience, I definitely had moments where I thought, man, should I just give up on this? Because it was just so taxing. I don't know what it is about filmmaking, but my experience, it can be really emotionally taxing. I don't know why, but there's just something just very about it. And 3 months through this experience, there were definitely moments where I'm like, well, maybe I should make it into a short film, or maybe I should just give up. But and in the past, I sort of had done that. There have been definitely films or projects that I started working on, and I just decided to push it to the wayside. But I trudged through, and after 3 months, I remember the last day of filming, and there was just this incredible feeling that I had. I'd finally finished this project, and I had actually finished it. It was like this real sense of pride. And during the time that I'd filmed, over the 3 months, I also was editing. So I would film, then I would edit, and then film. I would film about twice a week, and then I would edit throughout the week. And so I sort of had half a film finished already. So by the time I was done, it wasn't as difficult to put this together. But after about a month of writing, 3 months of shooting, it took another about 2 months to finish editing this film. But so after about 5 or 6 months, I remember I was doing my finishing touches. I was literally just finishing editing this movie. And a little background: I work with what's called Premiere Pro. It's an editing program. And the annoying thing about it, and I don't know why it does this, but it does this, is that when you export a file into Premiere Pro, you can't move around that file on the outside. If you move it around, it ends up, for whatever reason, I don't know why, ruining the file. Now, it's not impossible to get it back. You just have to locate the file, either put it back to its original place, or just locate it. Yeah, so I had managed to do that a few different times while I was editing, because I had a laptop with not very much space, and I even had a hard drive that still didn't have a ton of space, and so I had to constantly move around things and organize them, and I would sometimes just by mistake move something around without thinking about it, and it would just be such a freaking hassle to go back and find the file. I cannot tell you how annoying and how much time it would take to do that, because you're just finished this 10-minute edit, and then you, by mistake, move around a file, and boom, you have to like spend another few days just locating that file and putting everything back together. So I had done that a few times. Now imagine, if you will, if you took that file and you by mistake deleted it. Yeah, so what I was trying to do, I was just finishing up editing this film. It was this very large 6 or 7 gig project, and I wanted to export it into my hard drive. Now I needed some room in order to export it, and so I ended up starting to clean out different files and different things, trying to delete some stuff so that I could make some room. But what I ended up doing was, stupidly, I ended up deleting that file from the hard drive. And so when I deleted it and went back into my editing program, I immediately realized what I had done. Now, if I had just edited it, if I had just deleted it and put it into the garbage, but I'd left it there, there's a good chance I can just undelete it, right? No, because I'm an idiot. I decided to delete it from the garbage so that it just wasn't there anymore. I cannot tell you the feeling of finishing this feature film that had taken you about 6 months, and you just finished editing it. I mean, just finished, and you by mistake delete this entire project. I mean, the entire thing was pretty much gone. So for the next 3 days, I'm doing everything you're not supposed to do. When I did that, I should have just taken a deep breath, decided to take it to a professional, and immediately, try to get it done. Or try to have him, try to get it back. Didn't do that. I kept plugging in and out the hard drive. You're not supposed to do that. I downloaded all these programs to try to get it back. And over a 3-day period, I pretty much ruined any chance that I had to get it back. After those 3 days, I was absolutely distraught. I mean, I was just like, I cannot tell you the feeling that I had. And I had a friend of mine at the time who suggested that I try, having some professionals look at it, but I think I sort of ruined my chances. Over the next few months, I had some professionals look at it, but over a 2-3 month period, it ended up becoming more and more hopeless until at some point, I just had to give up on the project. Now, this is a 6-month period where I'm working on this project down the drain because of a stupid mistake. And this is a film that nobody is ever going to be able to see because I stupidly deleted the file. And I remember at the time, I would have been more depressed if it weren't for the fact that I'd started working on another project called Bad Cop. If you've seen it on this channel, Bad Cop is a web series, 3-episode web series, and this time around, I wanted to really put some money and time into this and have a crew, and I really wanted to sort of go the opposite way that I did with this film. And luckily, my mind was already sort of into that project already, so it didn't give me enough time to be too depressed, thankfully. And but I still felt like I would never get over this. I felt like this would just be something that haunted me forever. But after I started working on Bad Cop and I really threw myself into it, I don't know. It's been over a year. I can't remember, maybe a year or two. Maybe a year or two after this debacle. And honestly, I'm kind of okay with it, If I look back at it, the film itself wasn't that great. I mean, it was a cool experience, but I sort of have made peace with it, that I've made a feature film that nobody's going to be able to ever watch. And, it was something that I just never felt like I was going to be able to get over. And the fact that I sort of did get over it, and I can look back at it and at the very least say that it was a really cool experience and I learned a lot from it, is pretty surprising. And I think maybe for anybody watching this, maybe that's going through a difficult time as a filmmaker, you did something stupid, or maybe you put a lot of time and effort into a project that didn't quite work out. I cannot tell you that... what I did was like incredibly dumb, and it was something I never thought I was going to get over, but I ended up getting over it. And I think for anybody watching this, that they should take a deep breath and realize it's not the end of the world, because you still have a bunch of different projects and films that are waiting to be created, and if something doesn't work out, you move on to the next project. That's what I did, and with Bad Cop, I ended up creating this web series that I really wanted to make, and it ended up actually getting accepted to a bunch of film festivals, and so it sort of erased all of the sort of depressing feelings that I had, because I took what I learned from that experience, at the very least, and I brought it into the web series. And so that's just my little story on making a film and deleting it and never being able to see it. But yeah, I made a film that I deleted that nobody will ever see, and I think I'm okay with it. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to try to post more videos on this channel, so stay tuned and go follow my other channel, Weird Name Productions. I'll put the link down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day, you guys, because you deserve it.